All right, let's see if we can answer some questions that I've had regarding your 1.3 license. First question I had was, you have to be 21. Yes, you do. Unfortunately, that you're 18 and you can die for your country, but you can't buy a beer and you can't buy pro fireworks. ATF law, what can I say? Storage of the product, can you store it on your property? Yes, if you have approved storage. Most people, though, do what they call contingency storage, and that simply means wherever you're buying the fireworks from, they're already storing them. They keep them on site till the day you shoot it. You go there that day, you pick it up, and you do your show. That could be somewhat of a pain in the butt, if you're depending on how intricate you get into your shows and prep time you may need for setups and stuff like that. But once you have the product, you have 24 hours to deal with it. So, basically the next day, if you have product that didn't have to go off, it has to be back in an ATF approved storage. Which generally wherever you bought it from, they're well aware of that and they will store it, and they generally have some kind of provisions. My particular case, one of the places that I buy most of my product from, they will store it up to a year for me. But I did internal storage or inside storage. So I had a job box, which is a rigid job box through Home Depot. I think it cost $300 at the time I bought it. Last time I checked, it was about that same price. Fluctuates where you're at, but it's basically a 2 foot by 2 foot by 4 foot job box, and it has a nice locking system in there. The only thing you have to do is buy the ATF approved locks, which I think is at least minimum 3/8 diameter lock and at least a 5-pin tumbler on it. And, from there, whatever the job box recommends as far as height, which I think is 1 inch for mine, but whatever. And when you close the lid, there's no way to get at that lock to cut it. The only thing you can do is get a key into it. I painted the inside of mine with Flex Seal, which is rubber paint. And when I filled out the application, there's a section there about storage. They'll ask you whether it's contingency or whether you have your own storage. I filled out for an indoor magazine and all the information that they asked for. I did a drawing of my property, showed the distances from the magazine storage area, which is in a shed, to the house and to the road, or whatever I had, the buildings and what have you. And actually, when they came out on my interview, they approved it on site even before I got my license. Another type of storage is outdoor storage. That's a little different. The indoor magazine, surprisingly, you can put 50 pounds of pyro weight in there, and that's figured 25% or 1/4 of the gross weight for cakes and firecrackers and half the weight for shells. So if you have 50 pounds of shell weight, gross weight, then you have 25 pounds of pyro weight, basically. I mean, there's other ways. It may be marked on your ticket from who you're buying from, how much pyro weight you have. But I just use a scale and weigh it myself and go that way with it, so I actually know. And another thing is there's no table of distances on that indoor magazine. The only requirement is that you cannot have it inside your house. Your outdoor magazine is, for the low explosives table in the ATF book, I believe is 150 foot from inhabitable business places, which is your a household, 150 foot from public roads or public railroads. And when you if you have an ATF outdoor approved magazine, you can go up to 1,000 pounds of pyro weight. That's quite a bit. So to be able to store it has to be an ATF approved magazines, whether it's from the or the place you bought it from or your own. Can you shoot wherever? No. There are certain guidelines that you need to follow, and generally that falls into safety and ordinances and everything else. I live out in the country. I'm on 12 acres, and when I checked with my township, there is no ordinance, regulating 1.3 product. The only thing that is in Michigan that I know is a state law which is consumer stuff. And that goes according to population, and because I live in such a rural area, it's not applicable to me. I have very understanding neighbors. They've been very tolerable of my habit. So I'm very fortunate that way. From what I understand, there is a state permit for me if I want to do a major shoot. And I'm not sure what's all involved in that. I've never really had to deal with it because I only shoot on the 4th of July. But I guess if you want to do other shoots with the 1.3 product, I believe you have to fill this out. I don't even know where to send it to. I downloaded a copy of it, but you know, you're going to have to check with your municipalities, whether it's your township, your county, city, state, to find out about that. Besides that, when you shoot, there's safety protocols for a product. So when you shoot a firework, depending on the height that baby may go, depicts on how far away the people should be. So if that thing tips over, you want to make sure they're far enough away that, you know, whatever distance and lift, you know, they're far enough away. And then you also need to think of, okay, if it's 100 foot in the air, they need to be 100 foot away. Yeah, but if it travels 100 feet, you know, going horizontal, then blows up, you have a blast area too to think about. But there's other things you can do. You can angle product away from your crowd, which can cut down some of that distances. You know, I mean, my God, if I'm shooting a 10-inch shell, you know, that's saying that them people have to be 1,000 feet or so away, or more. However, if you angle it away from the crowd, that cuts down the distances. There's other safety factors too. Your distances don't change if you incorporate more safety protocols. By that I mean whatever the table of distances are, that's what they are. I bury anything that's 6 inches or larger. 3/4 of the tube length. So I think it was 36 inches on my 6-inch tube, so I buried it 27 inches in the ground when I shot that baby. The safety protocols I received from the PGI, which is the Pyrotechnics Guild International. You can go to their website. I believe it's pgi.com. Extremely informative website. I joined the club. They do an annual shoot every year, and when they do, you can find anything and everything about pyrotechnics there. Literally, they do classes on show you how to make things. You can make it under their license temporarily while you're there, and they shoot it off there. This is the PGI Display Operator Certification Study Guide, and it has all these tables of distances in there and safety protocols. They also authorize certain people in areas to be able to take that course. I think I paid $60 in my area to be able to take it through the place where I buy fireworks. They're accredited safety instructor there, and I was able to pass the course and get that certification. They also have, some states do require you to have that safety course. Some states require, a lot of states require you to have, I believe it's a shooter's license. My state doesn't require that. You do not have to have these safety courses to get your 1.3 license. Okay? That's strictly dealing with shooting off the product. But to buy the product, you don't need any of that. I didn't have any of those courses or information. I knew a little bit about it, but when I applied for the application, that was a non-factor. But you know, it's a lot of good information there to follow through, like 25 feet away from trees. They talk about weather conditions. If it's windy, you know, you have the right as a shooter, you know, lead shooter at a show to be able to say, hey, I'm sorry, the show's not going on. You don't want hot embers flowing over into somebody's field and catching it on fire, or to land on people and burn them, because you will have hot embers, that will reach the ground. No two ways about it. So in short, can you shoot anywhere? No. You have to be able to conform to certain regulations. Can you purchase in other states? Yep, it's federal license. I buy in Michigan. I buy in Indiana. So far, I haven't bought a lot of product because I just received my license, so it's kind of new to me. But you can buy in other states. As long as it's for personal use with your license, you can purchase it and transport it. The only thing is that they require, proper storage, which, like I said, was either contingency or your own magazine. So if you get stopped by the cops, make sure you have either your copy of your license or your receipt with you, which will have your license number on it. So far, everywhere I purchased had my license information on there. So if you get stopped, you'll be fine with it. If you accept money for a show, now you're no longer personal use. Now you're going to have to be able to haul hazard materials, which is a special license or permit. You may be required to have a commercial license of some sort, which may be a CDL or a chauffeur's license, whatever your state may require. So there's other guidelines for that. Generally speaking, when you're doing that, you also have other people who will be working with you. They also need to be authorized to be able to handle the explosives as well. Let's see here. Your tracking of your purchases. You have to track everything. Okay. When I purchase things, there's the daily or the acquisition, permittee explosives record of acquisition. I found examples online, and although I couldn't download the actual forms, I was able to download basically a photocopy of it, and there's had written on their big old example on there, so you can't really just print it and use it. But I used Excel, and I just started creating cells and modifications till it looked exactly like they had it. And the acquisition log is basically when you purchase the product, they want to know the date that you acquired it, the day that you actually picked it up, not necessarily a date that you ordered it. Then they're going to want the manufacturer's name or brand name of the product. Was it a Lido product? Was it Winda? Whoever actually built that firework. Then they want to know manufacturer's marks, which is usually like a stock number or a tracking number of that particular product that manufacturer identifies with. So there's going to be a set of numbers on your product, so when the manufacturer looks at it, say, yep, that was a 4-inch pistol or whatever it may be. Quantity. So when I do quantity on this particular form, if it's a case of cakes, like I bought a case of cakes, there was 12 cakes in a case, I put in there 12/1. 12 pieces, 1 box case. Description. In my case, it was like colorful cakes or whatever it was. I wrote that down there. Then the distributor's name and address, which is generally who you bought it from. And you need to do that for each item that you had bought that day. And that I keep in the office in a file cabinet. Now, since I have magazine, I have other paperwork to do, which is basically, well, I don't know if I showed this, but this is what this form looks like. See if I can get all the information on there and get it legible. But like I said, I just did it in Excel and kept changing the margins on there until I got it to print a full sheet. From there, I modified another one for the daily summary of magazine transactions. That one you need to have the date, the manufacturer's brand name, again, whoever made it. Quantity in this time, instead of pieces, I put in weight. So if I have a 10-pound box of cakes, that's my gross weight. My pyro weight is 25% of that, which would be, in that particular case, 2.5 pounds. Then there's a section for quantity out, for when you take product out. Maybe you only take out 1 or 2 cakes. So say you take out a cake. Well, if it was 2.5 pounds and you know how much that cake weighs, you would deduct that or put that in the quantity out. And then a balance. how much is your total weight at that given time. So that should be running. So as you add items to the list, your weight is going to increase. As you take it out, your weight will decrease. And this is a copy of that particular form. Again, Excel, and just print it out. When you have a magazine, they require you to inspect it. I didn't find any forms on there, so I just created my own. I put on there a date that I inspected it, the person inspecting it, which is usually the licensee, which is myself. I don't have anybody working for me, so I don't have anybody that's allowed by the ATF to inspect that magazine. They can inspect the building, and they can open up and see that the magazine is there, but they're not allowed to open up the magazine and check product inside. So I put in their person's name, and if I'm inspecting the building, which mainly means that I walked around the building, made sure that there wasn't any signs of tampering. Magazine inspection, I actually physically opened it to make sure that the locks weren't tampered with in any way, and then my signature. The reason why they require that is because you only have so many days if you have a theft or a loss, and you have to report that within that days, otherwise you could lose your license. So, if they're asking me if I inspect it regularly, now I have documentation that I can show them. If you're hauling the product with your license, if the police stop you, it's no big deal because you have your documentation with your license on there, and they know that you're allowed to transport it. So in short, as far as transporting it, as long as you're not doing it commercially or accepting money, you can haul it and transport it yourself. The Atf Book, which is the orange book, which I received a copy of mine when I got my license. I think it's ATF 2012. Has all the guidelines in there, all the laws pertaining to it. You can go to the magazine section there, and it'll tell you what's acceptable construction methods, acceptable locking mechanisms in there. Any information you want to find in there, it's in there somewhere. Sometimes I have a hard time finding it, but it is in there. Before I bought my license, I did all kinds of internet searches on forums, any kind of information I could. I found out about the explosive law, so I did a Google search, and I purchased a copy of the explosives law probably 3 years before I even went through the process, and I was surprised mine came in green. This is the one that I bought off of the internet. I don't remember, I just Googled it and found it somewhere. Eventually I found a copy and bought it. And when I checked with the actual orange book, all the law numbers, all the page numbers, everything are identical. The only difference is the color of the cover. Again, PGI is a terrific place to get any information and safety protocols that you want to get on there. If there's any other questions you may have, please feel free to, ask me, and I'll be happy to answer them. I think in the near future here, I'm going to go through and do a video on my magazine on what I did and what it looks like and all that, and try and post that. This weekend coming up, I'm going to be shooting off some product because of the 4th of July. We'll hope to get some videos and enjoy some more fun. Thanks.